Good morning, good afternoon, folks. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Carla, Chelsea, Rachel, Marlene, Taryn, Patrick, Natalie, Brendan. Thank you so much for being here. So good to share some space with you all. We're really excited to dive in just a minute or two. As you guys are coming in, feel free to make sure that your Zoom name is reflective of your name. And turn your camera on if you're able to, so that we can be in community and share some space with one another. And then we're going to get started in just a moment. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome, Laura. Thanks for being here. Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you. Thanks, Chelsea, for being here today. All right. Well, thank you all so much. We're going to get started in just a moment. We wanted to thank everyone for taking the time and space for your own learning and development to be here today. My name is Amir El Sheikh. I am an implementation coach here on the Next Education Workforce team. And we have the privilege to be learning from an amazing, dynamic, sparky group of educators who are going to be conversing with us about their own journeys within the Next Education Workforce models. We'll get a chance to hear their journeys about what it's been like to engage in team-based staffing, and also share what teaming looks like on their day-to-day work, from how they lead to collaborate with other teams, to also how they support one another within their own development and growth, and also how they coordinate instruction and student groupings, and shared goals, and also the real nitty gritty. We also know that there are the realities of team-based staffing can be challenging, and it also provides tons of opportunities. So we'll get a chance to hear from them. I'm going to pass it to Mashara to introduce herself, and then we will hear from our speakers.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for being here. I am Mashara Cruz. I'm a member of the Next Education Workforce team, and I'm just here supporting all your tech host needs. So if you have any issues with anything tech related, just drop me a message and I'm happy to help out. All right, Kelly, over to you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Owen. I am a ninth grade teacher at Westwood High School in Arizona. This is my fifth year working on teams as a special education teacher, and my team calls itself a leadless team. We share the leadership responsibility.
Thanks, Kelly. Let's kick it over to Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Lindsay Holmes. I am the third grade team lead at Detroit Academy of Arts and Sciences in Detroit, Michigan. I have a team of 7 educators, and we serve about 120 students, 130 students. And this is our first year teaming. Excited to be here.
Excited to hear from you, Lindsay. Passing it over to Haley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Haley Hurst. I am in Kansas City, Missouri at Academy for Integrated Arts, and I am the lead teacher for our 5th and 6th grade cohort of students. And I have 4 teachers that work with me in addition to me.
Thanks so much, Haley. And last but not least, Megan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Rios. I currently am a 6th grade English language arts teacher at Desert Wind Middle School in Maricopa, Arizona. I'm also a team lead there. It's my second year on an educator team. My team currently consists of 4 gen educator teachers, 2 special education teachers, and 2 paraprofessionals.
Thank you so much, Megan. So as y'all can hear, we have so much diversity within our speakers, and we're going to get to hear from each and every single one of them about their lived experience when it comes to teaming. I wanted to share with you all, before we dive in, the structure of our time. So the first 20 minutes of our time, we're going to be doing some questions, asking some questions of our panelists, hearing about their perspectives from teaming. Then we'll take about 15 to 20 minutes of questions. You can feel free to come off of mute or share your questions in the chat, and then we'll lift them up so that each and every one of them can answer your questions. And then we'll close out the last 5 to 10 minutes just with informal conversation, hearing some of your reflections and thoughts as we get started. So without further ado, let's dive right in to our first question. So this question is for Haley. first, and then we're going to kick it off to Lindsay. Can you describe your role as a lead teacher in team-based models and where you spent the most of your time supporting the team? And tell me more about why your role is important and what problems does it help solve?
Yes. So my specific role as the lead teacher at our school, we kind of see it as this hybrid role of in the classroom, but also really more that leadership or supporting teachers. So I would say I spend my time about 30% of my time student facing, about 30% of my time just teacher development facing, coaching teachers, and then 30% of my time is working on some school-wide goals and more strategy there. And then about 10% miscellaneous. I would say the biggest thing that the team-based model has solved for has been our ability to train and develop our new teachers. So on my team, I have a team of 4 teachers who are first or second year teachers. And I've worked as an instructional coach before. I've done some different things, but by far, I believe that teaming is transformational when it comes to just developing teachers from the jump. I think them getting to work with one another, getting to see different models and styles of teaching, and then having more like I get to support them more closely than I would if I were just working as an instructional coach. So for us, we've seen like the development of our teachers move largely.
So exciting. Thank you for sharing. Lindsay, tell us about your experience.
Absolutely. So this is our first year teaming. And so as a lead teacher, it's more like a peer leader model. And so most of my classroom is spent like a traditional teacher in the classroom, student facing. But I would say in terms of like how I interact with the team, my role is really fluid and flexible. I try to ask myself often where I'm needed most to drive the team forward towards our goals. And so I have found myself often needed to hear what teachers need, interpret that information, plan, and then drive execution towards whatever our goals are. And so that's kind of where I found the most need. I come from an operations background. I worked at Uncommon New York, and so I spent time in operations. And so what's been really important to me is like finding ways to support teachers and blocking and tackling so that they can put most of their time toward like instruction, teaching students, deepening their content knowledge. And so when I find ways to do that, personally, I position myself there. The ways that we have been able to problem solve are, I mean, expansive. When it comes to like scheduling, we've experienced like a loss of a team member, staffing transitions, and like because of the teaming model, we have been able to absorb that shock. And so students have not been able to feel that as much as they would have if it was just like a one teacher classroom model.
Thank you for sharing that wisdom, Lindsay. Appreciate you. We're going to kick it over to Kelly. And this question is for you, Kelly. Tell us more about your role of a special education teacher on your lead list team and how it's different from more of the traditional models that exist within the secondary setting. And then what impact does this have on students that you support and also the teams that you all share responsibility with?
I think the easiest way to describe my role is that I'm a support animal for all. So the easiest way for me to support students with learning needs is to plan with teachers. I've been teaching for 19 years. The teachers on my team are like, between 2 and 4 years. So I spend a lot of time working with them on how to incorporate universal design for learning, how to incorporate graphic organizers, close read strategies. I also come from an elementary background and I'm at a high school. And so like, how do we do station teaching? How do we do small group interventions? How do we use data to drive that? So that's how I use myself as a co-planner. As a co-instructor, I use the 6 co-teaching configurations. And similar to what Lindsay said, I ask myself, where can I make the most difference as a second certified teacher? So who needs a second certified teacher to make the most impact on a lesson you're doing? And I'll try to position myself with that group of students and that group of teachers, making sure that I'm adhering to goals and services, of course. I think the impact is a lot of times teachers are able to do different things when you have more teachers, right? We can do small group instruction. Also, weirdly, because I cross the 4 content areas, I work with a biology teacher, Algebra 1, English, and freshman seminar, which is like intro to CTE. I know what's happening in all the classrooms. So when we start practice or planning for cross-curricular projects, I really know where everyone is, where they're going. And so I hope that I'm very helpful when it comes to cross-curricular design of project-based learning.
Thank you for sharing. And something that I want to uplift that Haley, Kelly, and Lindsay have all named is their flexibility in ensuring that their teams are supported, and also the impact that that flexibility and that dynamic responsiveness that they have with their teams allows them to, how it allows them to serve both students and educators alike. Lindsay, let's kick it back to you and Megan. We would love to hear from you all. In what ways is your team greater than the sum of its parts? And what are you able to do better as a team because you work as a team and you're not in the one teacher, one classroom model?
Absolutely. So student achievement, student safety is our North Star. Our school we really want to drive achievement in math and ELA, and I'm sure that's similar for a lot of people. But because of teaming, we have been able to deepen our content knowledge so that we can support students by providing more rigorous instruction and therefore see much more growth when it comes to like academic achievement. And so a specific example I can think of is our learning labs where we conduct small groups. Our team has been leading the district in iReady completion, and that is the platform that we use to sort of drive student growth and also diagnose how they've been doing over the school year, if you're familiar with that. And so because of teaming, just our level of expertise around like how do we run small groups so that students can, one, like continue to improve on their academic skills, but also like get the necessary tasks completed, has been because of teaming, we have been able to do like a really strong job with that. And I'd also say, like going back to what I was saying earlier, instruction, we've been able to deepen our knowledge around our content areas. We have we say humanities, social studies, and ELA teachers. And then we have like a STEM arm of our team, which is math and science. And so usually when students are in 3rd grade, they have one teacher for 1 or 2 teachers. Well, now they see 4, maybe 5 teachers, but these teachers are very, very specialized in what they teach, and that has a huge impact on student achievement.
Thank you for uplifting that up. We love the specialization. Megan, can you share a little bit about it?
Absolutely. I'll say, like, working as a team, there is no limit to what we can do. So I've noticed as a team, we're able to do things that before we couldn't do. It was like being on an island. We're now able to flexibly group students based off of needs. We've been working as a team to design interdisciplinary projects, which has been amazing. You see the engagement go up with kids, and we know that when they're engaged, they want to learn, they're present, they're there to achieve. We can quickly respond to academic and social emotional needs. So when all of us are working with the same group of kids, we're able to have focused conversations that is analyzing the data and looking at their social emotional needs in the classroom and what small adjustments can we make to ensure that every child is learning at grade level or beyond. My favorite thing is we've been able to leverage each other's strengths. We all have our own superpower in the classroom, and being on a team helps us leverage that and use each other to provide consistent support across all classrooms so that everyone comes to work loving their job, feeling successful. It's night and day difference. Those are things that are so difficult to achieve when you are on a one teacher model. The collective approach really gives us the ability to see students more equitably and to approach education in an intentional way.
Thank you for lifting that up. We love the power of we're stronger together than apart. We can do a lot more when we are united as a united front and as a team. So thank you for lifting that up. Kelly, I'm going to kick it back to you and love to hear from you. What are some of the shifts that you're seeing for your students when they're being taught by an entire team in the secondary context, especially students with different learning needs or IEPs?
Well, like I said before, I spend so much time co-planning, and I've been working with my team for 5 years, and they're like better special ed teachers than I am at this point. They like blow me away with what they can do to support kids, which means that my students don't often need me. Kids on IEPs are gritty, man. They've been getting strategies for years. I'm at the high school level. If you give them the tools they need to succeed, they don't even need me. And so I can spend a ton of my time working as an interventionist. So if I'm pulling small groups of kids, I'm actually working with kids who might not have had specially designed instruction previously. So we get to help more kids in this model. Also, I do, progress reports. All I ever do is paperwork. And this year in particular, the amount of growth that my kids are making quarter to quarter, I keep like retesting, like, is this actually accurate? Their reading scores are going up, their math scores are going up. And so across the board, I see academic achievement for our most vulnerable students.
That is so powerful. I love that. The fact that you're able to impact so many more students because we have a group of teachers that wraps themselves around our kids. That's amazing. Haley, would love to hear from you. If you could share some of your wisdom and examples of some of how you have experienced deeper or and more personalized learning that have emerged within your team, and thinking through like what is the process that your team uses from planning to instruction to reflection to make sure that deeper and personalized learning is happening in all the classrooms at AFIA.
Yeah, thanks. So one thing that comes to mind is we have some set times in the day where students are learning their contents with their content expert, but we have two specific times in the day that we call win time. Win stands for what I need. And I know there's various models of that out there. How we utilize it is really helping students think about based on the data that they have. Conferring with them, hearing things they're interested in, and then setting some learning pathways for what they need to continue to grow in their learning. We talk a lot at our school about academic ownership, so students being in charge and owning their learning, and this is a part of that. So that time, what we do is we, get all of our students in fifth and sixth grade out in one room. And then from there, there could be students working on iReady or something more personalized in that way. There could be students who are working on inquiry-based projects or enrichment projects. We have some teachers who are specifically pulling interventions at that time based on more reading success plan goals. And then we have some teachers who are going, oh, based on this exit ticket yesterday, I'm going to pull this student, this student, this student. And, we're going to do a quick reteach or we're going to model doing this. So it's really time for us to be able to meet the needs of our students and also students to really get to choose some things that they're interested in. I was thinking about yesterday, I had some students ask, like, how were languages created? And so during the win time, I was like, well, let's do some research on that. So pulled a small group and, just impromptu did some research. And found out some information. And so oftentimes that's what that can look like. And I think what it's created is an opportunity for students to feel seen and heard, and also really to know about what they care about in learning and be really invested in that.
I love this idea of like uplifting student voice and need, and also teachers being little scientists and analyzing data and figuring out, okay, what is the very best next step to meet kids exactly where they are.
I was going to say, I should add that part of our process, we do both in our collaborative team meetings. We might be looking at more holistic data from assessments that's helping inform some of those specific interventions. But then we're also want to be flexible enough to what happened today in our block this morning and our block this afternoon, that we can, pull students that we're noticing need a little more support. So there's a lot of communication that happens between our team, but it takes the step back moments and it takes the trust with one another to go, here's what I'm seeing. Can I do this in this moment? So it's kind of both long-term and short-term.
Thank you for lifting that up. There's a question in the chat, and I invite all of our panelists to answer it if whoever feels compelled. But would anyone be willing to share around the roles that exist within your team, and if there are designated folks to speak to parents, someone who connects with admin or the special education admin member on the team, or community members? and how that approach unfolds within your team. And I'll invite everyone, whoever feels compelled to share.
I can speak a little to that for my team. So I'm the team lead. I typically connect with administration just on day-to-day kind of functions and when there's shifts or changes. But on our team, we have specific roles. So again, we really tried to leverage people's strengths. We had a new teacher join the team this year, and she's phenomenal with technology. She does things 10 times faster than I ever could. So she's in charge of our parent newsletter that goes out. We're Team Mario. It's cutely themed. We focus on what's happening in each classroom and then highlight student success in the projects that we're doing. So we share that out weekly. We have 2 ESS teachers, and one of those teachers is kind of our lead ESS as the more experienced teacher on the team. So they connect directly, with the head of our ESS department, and they kind of manage that area for us. Another teacher on our team, I'm just going to be honest, captain of fun. Like there's nothing he can't do to bring life to the party. So we utilize him for like our PBL and our PBIS, and we have different events that again recognize student achievement. He helps organize all of that. He knows what the kids love. So we use his fun energy and spirit to create events and to really motivate kids with some extrinsic motivation on top of the intrinsic. I think that when you build your teams in the beginning and everyone has an opportunity to share their experience and what they're confident with and what their strengths are, it's important to figure out how to leverage those and create roles for those people. On our team, our roles are different than other roles for different teams on the campus because, again, they've looked at what people bring to the table. So there are different teams that maybe do have students that struggle a little bit more socially, emotionally, and they have a designated safe person on their team for that that's able to manage those conversations really well. So I think it looks different everywhere when we're looking at the fact that we're here to service kids and it's about what's best for kids, and then looking at how do we leverage the strengths of adults to meet the needs of the students we have that year. And the roles may change from year to year depending on the students you have.
That is so empowering, really meeting the needs of our learners right in the moment. Thank you for lifting that up. Let's kick it back over to Haley and Lindsay. We'd love to hear, we heard a little bit from Megan about how her school, they create this sense of belonging for teachers and how teacher voice is also at the forefront and how we're leading with strength. Can you talk more about how do you create a strong sense of belonging for your students when teams serve a larger group of learners, and how have families responded to team-based models, particularly in the younger grades? Whoever feels compelled to show first, Haley or Lindsay, yeah, whoever.
Yeah, I think actually one of my favorite parts of teaming is the student belonging piece, especially going from the one teacher, one classroom to just a larger community that we get to connect together. So this is our second year as a team. In our first year, one of the things we were doing morning meetings separate. And one of the things we realized is that we needed to connect more. And so all of our 5th and 6th graders come together in the morning. And, at first they were unsure of each other because they weren't used to having to be in each other's spaces. But what it did was create just an opportunity for students to connect across grade level, for students to connect with different teachers, for them to see all of us teachers together leading something. And then what they started to learn is that they had all these teachers with different personalities and different strengths and expertise, but they loved that they were able to it wasn't the same all day. So they had like a sense of different connections with different people. One person brings the fun, one person brings like that really supportive stance. And so I think just the belonging piece happened when there was opportunities to connect with people that they normally wouldn't. And what we saw at the end of our school year, when our 6th graders were graduating to go on to middle school, that our 5th graders were boohoo tears. And we had never had that in all the years of our school, but there was such a sense of community from the times that they had worked together just in morning meeting, but also in academic spaces as well. So, yeah.
So empowering. Thank you.
Haley, I echo a lot of what you said. So what we do at DOS, specifically with our 3rd grade teams, is we have a family meeting. We do it once a week, but that particular touch point creates is an opportunity to build community among all of the different homerooms within our grade. And so we foster that belonging through, of course, the family meeting, but celebrations, giving students an opportunity to get to know each other outside of the classroom. But I would also say, like, when our teachers meet, we are able to share like the cultural things that we're seeing across the grade. And so we can respond to that during our family meetings. We can set expectations during our homeroom time. And so like students can then across the grade align to whatever it is that we need or whatever it is that we see. Echoing Haley's point, in terms of like teachers get to be known in the teaming model. So students know who the cool and fun teacher is, the teacher who has more instruction, the expert or structure rather, the expert in math or the expert in ELA. And so when they need help with their homework or when they have a question about a field trip, they know who to go to, and they kind of build that knowledge base rather quickly as they're introduced to the different staff members and they get to know the teachers and the teaming model.
Thank you for lifting that up, both of y'all. Appreciate y'all. We see some questions filtering through the chat, and we're going to get to all of the questions in a moment, but would love to hear from Megan around the importance of common planning time and also the formal and informal ways that your team stays aligned and support one another. That was a question that sort of came through in the chat as well.
Absolutely. So as the other teachers have mentioned, team planning time is essential. We have an opportunity as a team to meet every single day for an hour at my campus. That time we come together and have meaningful collaboration. So it gives us an opportunity to analyze data, to look at designing instruction, and especially for those PBLs versus being in isolation. We get an opportunity to reflect on student progress. And then outside of the formal side, we get to do regular checkups on each other and check-ins. Sometimes I think teaching gets overwhelming. You feel like, again, like the on an island is such a true analogy for it. You feel isolated and left alone, and you have an opportunity to collaborate and work with teachers and ask, what is going well with this student? I may be struggling with this. Can you give me some ideas? And it gives us an opportunity to ensure that we're supporting all kids in all environments because we all operate a little bit differently. We have ongoing communication. We have lunch together every day. And it's an opportunity to build alignment and trust. I can't emphasize enough the trust piece. When starting a team, if the team doesn't feel like they can trust each other, there's automatically a road and a wall right in front of it. You have to have the trust for the building blocks that allow you to address the challenges that are going to come with teaching properly. But having that hour a day space, I can't stress how important it is. When you take that away, it feels like there's a slight uncertainty of what the lesson looks like the next day because we're constantly modifying, twisting to meet student needs. And if we did an assessment and we have immediate data and feedback, and we want to go back and look at that and then pull small groups the next day or modify instruction or reteach something, we need that time to sit together, discuss the data, and discuss what our plan looks like, and then specifically assign teacher roles. So again, as everyone has mentioned, we're flexible on teams. So we have an opportunity, like I may step away and pull a small group of students for a writing while the ESS teacher actually takes over the classroom and does a whole group lesson for the next portion of students that are ready to move on to the next steps. So that common planning time really keeps the team moving smoothly. We go forward as one, and we have an opportunity to assess and analyze data in a way that's meaningful for student growth and movement.
So empowering. And also you're moving at the speed of trust, right? When y'all trust one another, we can then make changes that really meet the needs of our kids, which is what we're doing here. Let's kick it back to Lindsay before we move on to just some open Q&A. Lindsay, can you share with us a little bit more about what's been the most exciting exciting part of your work in being in a team-based model, and what's been one of the biggest challenges that you face?
Absolutely. Going back to the point that has been echoed a number of times is no longer being on an island. When you're teaming, you have an opportunity to work with like-minded professionals that are driving toward the same goal. And so we are, everyone on our team is deeply invested in student achievement, data, and outcomes. And that was really exciting as we were starting teaming, creating our goals and our visions to kind of direct our efforts. And so throughout the school year, really sitting down, having those data conversations, thinking about ways that we can reshape, reform, become more flexible to meet student needs has been something that's super exciting for our team and to see our students grow as much as they have in ELA and math in particular. In terms of a challenge, on that same end, I'd also say like building trust. You spoke to that just a second ago, Megan. Teachers coming from the insular model where it's one classroom, one group of students, and then now you have to expose yourself to various different ideals, styles of teaching, and being able to do that with fluidity and confidence has its challenges, but we work through it.
I love the we work through it part, and also moving at the speed of trust is so vital. And it's better to be on a team than to be in a little island on your own. Thank you so much for lifting that up, Lindsay. We're gonna now just invite our participants. Feel free to come off of mute. If there was a question that you have that wasn't addressed with what we've already presented, feel free to come off of mute and ask it. And then we'll hear from our panelists.
I think one thing I would just speak to, there's some questions around common planning time. I I do think like admin has to be really bought into this too. So to make a way for and like the vision has to be that they're supporting in some ways. But there's also what's great about teaming is it's not a one size fits all. So what our fifth, sixth grade team might be a little different than what the third grade team needs. And we've gotten really creative. I saw somebody say like a morning huddle, but that has been like instrumental for us. So we have like 20 minutes, 15 minutes before kids start showing up. And we're going, here's what happened yesterday in my classes. Here's who I'm pulling today. Here's what I'm struggling with. It's also a time for us to like just breathe and get ready for the day. So that is like sometimes that 15 minutes go for us. And then like, yeah, quickly at lunch, checking in. But our admin has also done some things like every 6 weeks, we get a full day of planning with our team. I would say if you have admin support, those things always make it better. We could do it without that. But yeah, I think you have to get creative, like morning, afternoon huddles as well.
Thank you for lifting that up. I'm looking in the chat to see if there are any questions. Shout out to Dara and Kevin who are answering asynchronously. We appreciate y'all. There's a question in the chat around parent-teacher conferences and what that looks like in the teaming setting. I invite all of our panelists, whoever feels most compelled to share, to share.
I just saw that question and we just had conferences last week. So I figured I could share our experience. It's been a little different each time. I think that you have the flexibility to adjust as a team to meet the needs of your students because again, it shifts. This time around, we have a lot of amazing students that have A's and B's, like the highest percentage I've seen in quite a while. And I do attribute that to the teaming model. I think the student growth, the longer that our school has had the teaming model, it's evident. It's there in the numbers. So we chose to take a different approach where we sent out invitations using our parent newsletter, which our families are familiar with. And the first time we just put on there, if you have a student that's struggling, so parents can see our grades through the computer, C's are below. We ask that you sign up for a spot. We'll also be personally reaching out to make connections. We really focused on our students that we see academically struggling in the classroom, and then we broke up into teams of 2. I am on a larger team, as mentioned before, and we have co-taught classrooms. So we divided where we had a math, an ELA, and science teacher in one room, and we had a document that the kids that had signed up, teachers gave feedback and a grade for all of the kids on that roster. And then in the other room, we once again had a math, an ELA, and a social studies teacher. And science went through and made all the notes so that social studies and the rest of the team could talk about it. But it gave us an opportunity to see more kids and to focus on those that need additional support, where we really need the family and teachers to be a team so that we can move kids a lot quicker to have growth. Other teams on our campus, though, did something entirely different. A different team had student-led conferences, and our elective teams chose to have essentially open house, where they met in the gym and had stations and tables, and parents could come in after their scheduled conferences with the Common Core teachers and then pop in to see how kids are doing in electives. So I think the beauty with conferences in a teaming model is, again, on campus, conferences can look entirely different per team, depending on what meets the need of the teams and the students, versus traditional model. We all typically did like the exact same conference format as to not confuse families, and we were all in the same pace, not necessarily meeting the needs of the kids and the families.
Shout out to you. Thank you for lifting that up. We love the flexibility and also the dynamic manner in which y'all move to make parent-teacher conferences work for the specific students that y'all are serving. Appreciate that. We have a question in the chat from Fran Lizette, and I'll read it out loud, and whoever feels compelled to share can share. Have you found that this model makes it easier or more difficult for differentiation of instruction and also for remediation? I'm thinking about how I usually have a wide range of abilities in my middle school classroom.
I can answer that 1,000 times easier, maybe 1,000,000 times easier. So when the team is planning together, so I'm a high school teacher, and we're producing, students have choices in the papers that they take. Sometimes they're color coded. So we have like an IB, a challenge paper that is like a higher level of rigor. We have an on-grade level paper, and then we have, we're an AVID school. So rather than calling it like the special ed paper, it's called the AVID paper. And it has things like metacognition. I like to call them Miss Owen's hot tips. So it'll have like thinking prompts throughout the paper. And then we have an ELL paper. We have a bunch of students who are monolingual Spanish. And so we have papers that help them with translations. And that has been having a team to help create that amount of materials has been transformative for our students. And our students are like developing the autonomy to go and say, hey, I think I'm at this level. Also, because we have flexibility in how we build rosters, it allows us to move kids, even at the high school level, around to pull kids in and do extra reteaches based on gaps of understanding.
That's a lot for one person to do, but when we have a multitude of people who wrap around kids, we can have someone who's doing the AVID paper. We can have someone who's doing the monolingual Spanish paper and writing it out so that kids are getting exactly what they need. So thank you for lifting that up. Anyone else want to share from our participants that have any other questions that are coming up? Oh, we see one from Chelsea. If you have a unit that is cross-curricular, do students earn grades for each subject or standard?
At the high school level, yes. So depending on when we do cross-curricular, it often incorporates all 4 teachers. And so when we start planning, all 4 teachers will put their standards in. And then when we develop our rubric, they'll decide what part of the project they're going to grade. And so when our students are doing cross-curricular, when they produce an item to demonstrate their understanding, they might be learning different parts of the project in different classrooms, but they create one product that's graded by 4 different teachers to give a summative grade.
We do the same thing, Kelly. So we put the standards at a middle school level, we identify the standards for each content area, and then say that that teacher is grading that section. So if it's a PBL, we know that, and students know because they have clear rubrics identifying what their success criteria is and the objective. They know what they're supposed to do for each content area, and then that goes in at its own grade. And then really quick, I saw the question for middle school, and as a middle school teacher, I wanted to share, my students are not any different from anyone else's. I guarantee you they have the same amount of shenanigans and all of the things daily as anywhere else. But I can say being on a teaming model, the behaviors reduce. They have a team to support them, and they know what the expectations are. And when you work as a team, there's a law that common expectations are so much clearer for kids that they know what to do in every environment, and it's mirrored. So once your team has built that trust and you have the common expectations and procedures and routines in classroom, kids take that from space to space. So when you have the large projects like our PBLs, we have taken all 100, I have 147 kids to the library in different spaces and had them work on things, and they're entirely successful. We host family nights. The kids set up the gym on their own. We are there to facilitate their success because it's their night and they shine. So while it feels like a risk, and I came from a different middle school that did not have a teaming model, and I remember panicking the first time they said we were going to do something collaborative with 100 and almost 50 kids in one room that were seventh graders at the time, and then watching them thrive because they knew what was expected and seeing that consistency, it goes away. Like they learn, they're so capable, they rise to the occasion. And again, having a group of teachers working together as one allows them to have those deeper learning opportunities, allows them to investigate and experience learning on things that they're interested in. So I think it's surprising, but they really do rise to the occasion. They're phenomenal.
I would just echo what Megan is saying about behavior management. I think it's created more opportunities for us to actually know and understand what students need. And also just thinking about the teaming model, I heard somebody ask like specific roles and responsibilities. This is where I think teaming actually like accelerates teacher skill, because they're getting to see, you know, whether it's the lead teacher or somebody who's been there, like they're getting to hear the language of that teacher with students. They're getting to see the way that they like lead a classroom, the way they set up a procedure. So they're able to pick up on some of that common language much quicker. And then I would say that, I was going to say that it has forced a lot of conversations for our team to talk about, okay, when it's, you know, when all five of us are in the room and somebody's leading, like, how do you want us to respond? What should my role be? And it causes us to think about things a little bit more strategically as adults and how we support students and what we're noticing and seeing. So there's both like the teacher development, but also the flexibility to support students. We can push in with students who have some higher social emotional needs than other students. So, yeah.
And I want to add just a tidbit here as well. Also, students have an opportunity to get to know all of their teachers. And so that way, if they have an issue, if they want to talk to whomever it is, if they feel like they need to talk to someone, they know what teacher to go to. They're able to build relationships outside of their homeroom teacher, which gives them an opportunity to connect with adults outside of just the one adult.
Thank you so much for lifting that up, Lindsay and Haley and Megan. We appreciate y'all. Before we wrap up in the next couple of minutes, we just wanted to close out with a question that might be burning on all of our participants' minds, and we'll send this one to Kelly. Kelly, what advice would you give teachers or admin who are considering team-based models at their schools?
Like a resounding do it. This is my 5th year. There have certainly been ups and downs. I am not saying that teaming has always gone swimmingly or has not come with its added stress, but the collective efficacy, I think I've heard everybody mention the teacher growth, skill growth, what we can learn from each other, and the way it supports kids. Our kids come to school happy. They see teachers having fun together. That makes them feel welcome. Everybody on this panel has mentioned specific things that they're doing to make kids feel that like in-group behavior. And we know nationwide, kids are struggling with wanting to go to school. In the team-based model, even in my resource classes, I'm noticing like attendance is up. Kids want to be here. They feel part of the family. We have kids coming back and eating lunch with us every day. This model is good for kids and it is good for teachers. And I think, yes, just do it.
Mic drop. That's it. Thank you for sharing, Kelly. Thank you all for being present here today. Big shout outs to our panelists, our speakers, for just your vulnerability, your transparency, and sharing all of the wisdom that you've acquired over the last few years within your teaming journeys. We are wishing you all of the luck as y'all close out the second half of the school year, and sending some love and sparkle to all of our participants as y'all think about teaming and really get invigorated, excited, to potentially begin this journey. We are super, super excited for y'all. If you want, you can feel free to hang out for the next few minutes to ask our panelists any specific questions that you may have. But if not, feel free to close out and go back to your events page to go to your next session. And we are super thankful to have gotten to share space with y'all today. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for being here.